I'm Jess Becknell, and I'd like to welcome you to the Commerce Connect video series, a collaboration between Gorilla Group, a Wunderman Thompson company, and Coveo. In part one of this installment, Dale Traxler, Senior Director of Alliances and Channel at Coveo, and Dwayne Dozier, Senior Director of Strategic Consulting at Gorilla, take a deep dive into the differences and nuances between B2C and B2B search. We hope you'll come away with a better understanding of the importance search plays in the customer experience. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, Jess. Appreciate you all for joining us today. We're going to be talking about what's the fuss about search. It's a hot topic with our partners and with our customers these days, and there's a good reason for that. Let's take a deeper look at the agenda. We're going to be talking about shoppers and buyers. What's the difference between someone just shopping and maybe making a purchase versus someone who's committed and they want to get in and out as quickly as possible to buy the product they want. We're going to talk about how you find what you want and how there may be better ways to find things more quickly. We're going to talk about balancing your business outcomes. You know, it's one thing to deliver the customer experience people want, but it's also important to the business to achieve your profit margins and your inventory capabilities. And finally, we're going to be talking about differences in capabilities for B2B and B2C. We're going to do a future session in the series that'll also go into business imperatives, technology impacts, and AI, and we'll summarize that all together. But today, we're just going to start off here with shoppers and buyers. As I said, we're going to keep it hopefully fairly loose. I'm going to lay the context just by saying what people expect today has changed for good. There's a true need for relevant and experiential experiences. We see that across every industry, whether it's employee engagement, marketing websites, e-commerce, but specifically in e-commerce, when I go shopping, I really want to find products that are relevant to whatever my intent is. It's not just about presenting a whole bunch of products because I think it's a cool brand. I may not care about that brand. You need to be able to figure out what my intent is and deliver relevant products, relevant how-to information, relevant videos in the context of whatever that individual's doing. We need to be coherent and conversational. We can't have to go to 3 places to look for something. We want to have a unified search. So if I'm searching for a how-to, it's the same place I search for a specific part number. Otherwise, people get frustrated that they're using different systems, they're using different silos, if you will, of a website or a system. Finally, we need to make sure that we're improving. We have to use all that data that we capture to improve the experience and deliver even more relevant information. We go from search to recommendations to really predicting what you are going to do next. And that's where we're seeing search go, is not just be keyword search where we were 10 years ago, but also, hey, I think you're probably going to be doing this next, so why don't I serve up that video content as a way of reinforcing your decision? So those are just some examples we're going to look at. And with that, I'm going to start with a question for Dwayne. Dwayne, given what I just talked about, obviously finding products and content is super important, but business outcomes are also important to the retailers. Let's explore a little bit in terms of what's the difference between a shopper and a buyer, and how does that apply in a B2C or a B2B scenario?
Yeah, thanks, Dale. Thanks for the invite to the conversation today as well. You know, Gorilla really does appreciate the interactions like this with our partners and the opportunities to share what we know and educate others. You know, in terms of B2C, individual shoppers, really are a lot of times are impulsive. They're operating on emotional needs. Perhaps they're doing something, entertaining in the moment. So for B2C, it's really important to understand the intent in the moment, capture that, and act on it. The types of products that B2C shoppers are buying are typically single units, purchased one at a time. In the case of fashion, for example, we'll probably use the t-shirt size example later today. So site search needs to really present the most relevant products aligned to both the past buying behavior of the shopper and the current emotional needs. The current emotional needs is an area that Wunderman is investing in considerably across our accounts and industries, because we know those emotional signals can add relevance to the search. In B2B, it's about professional buyers and minimizing complexity, the complexity of the products, the complexity of the payments, the complexity of the fulfillment, potentially recurring orders. So the sales are happening across many product types, paid for in different ways, delivered in multiple locations, and the buyers are really pressed for time. So site search needs to present the products that comply with the complex contracts, the local laws and regulations, and delivery restrictions. And so, we need to be able to provide searches in some cases that allow people to search for products that can be delivered to a loading dock. And that's a pretty unique search, moment that's different than delivering something to your doorstep.
Yeah, that's for sure. I thought I'd pop up a slide that I think is relevant at this point. Speaking of relevancy, at Coveo, we've kind of identified 7 site pains that scare away buyers. And I think some of these are old, some of these are new, but we can digest on this and riff on this a little bit. But basically, if you type in and get the old keyword paradigm where that's all you probably bring the wrong information. I had an experience, and I'll pick on Apple a little bit. I want to replace the battery in my phone. So I went to their site and said battery replacement. And the only thing I could get from their site search was selling me a new phone cover that has a battery pack in it. I had to go into their support sequence to find anything that had to do with replacing batteries. And I thought that was just frustrating to me. I didn't want to buy something. I just wanted to know how to fix something. So that's relevance. It's using the terms beyond just what somebody's written rules for. And I think that's one of the key things here. We need to leverage data and AI to do that. But given that, go a little bit deeper in the differences between somebody buying a T-shirt versus somebody that's actually a business buyer and needs to learn more about the specifications, for example, kind of trending along that same example. Talk about how shoppers have to have that access to both of those types of information.
Sure. So let's use the T-shirt example. In B2C buying or shopping, we typically see low quantities, simple products, perhaps buying for a family. And the T-shirt is about small, medium, large, red, blue, green. Is it available today, and potentially the price? But as we buy that same T-shirt in a B2B setting, it becomes more about, is this T-shirt compliant with our brand standards? Is it available from our contracted catalog? Do we need to buy it in a certain quantity to receive a price break? Do we need to do a search on a special attribute about, is it fire retardant? Was it manufactured in a certain location because we have to comply with a trade sanction or something like that? And the attributes that need to be searched on or that can influence the buying decision are just exponentially higher than in B2C. And a good B2B designed site search allows the buyer to filter and fasten on that, or in the case of Coveo, use some intelligence to present those products without having to do refinement selections.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Jess, what's your least favorite experience with search that you can think of to call out?
Oh man, that's a really good question, Dale. I think my biggest frustration is very similar to what you were talking about in terms of your Apple example, where going in, trying to just find something specifically when I'm like in the moment, I don't need anything else. I just need to know how to do one thing and I can't find it. It's either pushing me a different product, it's either allowing me to search for all the other frequently asked questions except for my frequently asked question, which is how do I fix this one thing?
Right.
And going into, having chat pop-ups and whatnot, all of those things are unnecessary if I was just able to get the information I needed.
And that kind of comes to the core of what we talked about earlier, with the shopper versus buyer. Buyers have a very specific intent. I want to get this done now as fast as I can, whether I'm B2B or B2C. Shoppers can graze around and get drawn into, recommended items and things like that. Whereas a B2B buyer, for a recommendation, if something's out of stock, they want a substitute product. They want to know what else could I possibly buy. So these become really important. I'm going to walk through an example now that I think is fairly relevant, and it's a large retailer that is a customer of Coveo's, and I'll show you the before and the after, and kind of get into this a little bit. Before Coveo, if you searched on a 4K monitor on this site, you got results, and the top results look pretty relevant. The 4K monitors come up in the first row. There's 96 of them, first of all, we notice, which is a lot to sort through. So I might want to filter on something. So if I look at my filters, my first filter is for home and for work, but then as I go down, the next thing I can filter on is like resolution. Well, I've already predefined that I want a 4K monitor. I don't want to filter on a different resolution because I've already selected that. So that's kind of a faux pas. As you get into this a little bit further, if I'm the cheap guy, which I am, I'm probably going to say, well, show me the cheapest thing you got and let me see if that's good enough. So I'm going to switch from relevance to low to high prices. And as I do that, guess what comes up? Because it's keyword search in this case, they were just using solar. What comes up is a whole bunch of accessories that are cheap, but they're nothing to do with a 4K monitor. That's something I would have wanted to self-select down into accessories, but I just immediately dropped into this. So now I'm frustrated. That's not what I wanted at all. So let's take a look at how you can improve this. This is the same search improved with Coveo. And in this case, 4K monitor, we've already categorized you into flat panel LCD monitors. Instead of showing you as one of the first facets over here, resolution, you can see we've gone right to the most relevant thing being for home, accessories, or under, or the price facet, so that we could quickly, filter on price. If we do then filter on something else like gaming accessories, we're going to get different results. So the dynamic navigation allows us to get to the relevant facets based on other people's successful conversions. So we're using other people's outcomes to determine which facets should be presented first. We've also auto-categorized, which is easy to clear if that's not what you really intended to do.
And with that, tune in to part 2 of What's All the Fuss About Search, part of the Commerce Connect video series.